What's going on? I'm Pronago, and here we are finishing off the final missions of Episode 2 of Antioch Remastered Negative Suns in StarCraft 2. So the last mission that we had completed was Twilight Culling, which was really, I guess, anathema to what I expect out of StarCraft missions, or just RTS missions in general. So let's see how Mirror Mirror holds up. This was the mission that had quite a lot of dialogue, if I remember correctly, but maybe I'm thinking of a different one. Judicator Termalis's arrival at New Antioch is a somber one. Korun and Nurok have died, trapped in a Vespene Canyon when their shuttle was destroyed. Perhaps worse is the fact that the shuttle was attacked by a mysterious force of Protoss, whose white scouts arrived and departed almost too quickly to be seen. The precise timing of their attack suggests that they had been observing the Judicator's forces for quite some time. But for what purpose? Trent Astor has also traveled to Shakuras, tracking the Protoss through New Brisbane's sensor logs. What he learned on the station has forced him to question his current employer's true intentions. Should he hope to be paid without compromising his own ethos, the Protoss are perhaps his last chance. I like how then it says, Protoss cannot be infested. That had a lot to do with what we just read. So, the textual stuff, the paragraphs here, actually belie a more developed and fleshed out story than we ever experience in the classic StarCraft 1 rendition of this campaign. The original incarnation of Antioch Episode 2 really didn't have any of this extra establishing material, and it was all just, now it's just being told to us, and we were shown nothing to correlate to this stuff, you know? As a very, very side note, you don't need an apostrophe S if you're ending in an S. It can just be Termalis apostrophe. For some reason, English works that way, but people who read English natively know what that means. So don't have to add apostrophe S. At least as far as I can tell. Maybe somebody in the comments will let me know that I'm being a fool. But I'm playing this, so of course I am.
Judicator, I share your grief for the loss of Korun and Nurok. I did not know them long, but their fire burned bright enough to illuminate even a Shadow Warrior such as I. They were prepared to fight. Unfortunately, preparing for loss does not always come so easily.
How many more must die? How many have already been sacrificed? Kas, Adun, Jabok, Argus, Tassadar?
And Kaldaris. Kaldaris? Long ago, Judicator, I was once a zealot of your people. It was in that glorious time of peace and tranquility that I knew Kaldaris and studied with him the ancient teachings. It is to him that I owe my enlightenment, my departure from tradition. Like those he followed and those who followed him, he sought freedom of mind and spirit, and was murdered for it by his own mentor, Tyradun. Tyradun? One and the same. I can scarcely believe it.
Believe it, Judicator. My predecessor, Loriok, witnessed the event with his own eyes.
Nanoth, Tyradun, and Loriok were Templar under the leadership of Jabok. As pupils of the Templar, Kaldaris, myself, and the brave Sinar waged war against the mad armies of a rogue Judicator, obsessed with the forbidden secrets of Zalnagan technologies. And who was this Judicator?
Severak. His name is seldom spoken. It was forbidden to record it in the archives. Such was his evil. Only Loriok kept a personal account of his doings. The tome rests in my custody now. Even I do not dare open it.
The thirst for knowledge does not denote evil intent. Judicator, you hardly knew my contemporaries. Ah, where have I heard that before? Imagine the fields of ire, soaked in the blood and dismembered limbs of your own people. A glimpse into the foul blasphemy of his evil.
No, Moloch. Even that would not be a glimpse.
I believe I understand, but what became of this Severak? And what relation does it bear to Tyradun and the death of your friend Kaldaris? Alongside our Templar masters, Kaldaris, Sinar, and I fought against Severak and his twisted minions. Their forces were legion, but we stood firm. It was in the darkest hour of our struggle that Tyradun betrayed us to Severak. Our losses were great, and Galdaris fell by Tyradun's own hand. Only Nanoth's interference saved Tyradun from Topok's fury and my own blades. He sacrificed himself by forcing a merging. He and Tyradun became one. Nanoth's will was strong enough to carry out the assassination of Savarak, for which we all owe him a great debt. But, in time, Tyradun's will once again grew dominant. Topok could not bring himself to destroy his old friend Nanoth, and so sealed the Archon alive in a nondescript temple far from the comings and goings of others. After that day, I and Loriox spoke truthfully of the incent to our people. The Assembly branded us as heretics for blaspheming against the Archon's memory and calling Topok a liar. We were exiled.
According to Loriox's journal, Nanoth Tyradun had never been seen or heard from again. That is, until you encountered him at the Temple of Topok. May its ruins rest in peace.
I understand your doubts, Moloch, but for once, I have little to say. I must think on this. I must think on this at great length. Entaro Adun.
Entaro Adun.
Was it proper to burden him with this?
Perhaps not, but it was necessary. Dromalis is wise, but his is not a questioning soul. Perhaps this may open his eyes.
Or perhaps it may close them. Forever.
Classic. What? Choose cutscene. The original edition is significantly longer than the remastered edition, but contains more background information. Should you choose, you will be able to assume control of New Antioch during either. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the remastered edition, dude. Assume control.
I'm receiving a transmission from a ship in orbit.
Terran.
Tell him it's about Mox.
A transmission regarding Commander Mox?
It is merely a single Terran in orbit, Judicator. I was about to dismiss him.
No, thank you. Pass the signal through to me here.
As you wish.
Speak, Terran.
You don't know me. The name's Aster. Trent Aster. Or you can call me Trench if you like. I'm an information broker, and I was recently hired by the commander. And I've, recently discovered something interesting. Normally I just finish the job, collect my dues, and move on to the next thing, but, in the light of this information, I can't exactly return to my employer.
Oh? Explain.
I take it you know about Mox's exile?
I was present, yes.
I know who planted the homing beacon in Mox's quarters.
Indeed. Do tell.
50,000 credits first.
Terran, if your information is of any use to me, you may be paid. If not, I may very well blow you out of the sky for wasting my time.
Fair enough. The person who planted that homing beacon wasn't Mox. It was Dale Gurney. And that's not even the interesting part.
At least there's
Those weren't
gameplay during
Kelmorian
this,
raids
man.
attacking the station.
Elaborate.
Those wraiths were using fake serial numbers and transponder codes, flying around all painted up to look like Combine ships. Check your old data and you'll see that the masked signatures are specific to the troops on Mount Midnight, the old Char Psi Reserve under jurisdiction of the Combine.
Does this not sound a bit contrived to you, Terran? What is the
Yes.
point of staging this elaborate charade just to exile
Charade.
Commander Mox?
Ah, but that's where this little conspiracy gets good. There are a few inconsistencies here that you just can't ignore. Now, didn't Mox tell you that the Combine was planning to use an army of psionically controlled Zerg against the Dominion?
Yes.
Yeah, well, what he failed to mention was that the Combine is actually a part of the Dominion itself now. It'd be pretty stupid for the Kelmorians to want revenge over monetary losses, when the Dominion Engineering Corps is actually a subsidiary of the Combine itself. And that's just one example off the top of my head. The Combine hasn't suffered on account of Mengsk rising to power. It's gotten richer. Isn't it also a coincidence that the
Audio.
two of them happen to be training ghosts only a stone's throw away from an old, supposedly abandoned Morian mining base? That coincidentally happened to house a platoon of telepaths in cold storage, and a psi emitter capable of luring all the Zerg on Char to any planet like flies to flypaper?
You are saying Commander Mox and his forces wanted to use the psionic technology themselves, and that he purposely lied to us in order to obtain it?
Somehow, Gurney and Mox got wind that the Combine was experimenting with the Zerg on Ire. All that bull about a plot to overthrow Mengsk and keep the Protoss occupied? That was pure fabrication. The Psychicune on Ire was another of the Combine's experiments, and the Kelmorian forces that arrived to harass you were just there to try to preserve their investment. Mox and Gurney planned to take out the Combine, grab whatever technology that was used to create the cocoon, and return safely to a shiny new space station waiting in orbit over Ire, the most heavily infested world in the Koprulu sector.
Koprulu.
Now, the short and the long of it is that your Terran buddies wanted to use the Zerg much in the same way
Well-
that the fictional Combine wanted to. Except they had no intention of striking at Core Hollow. Oh no. From what I read in their classified files, they wanted to pose as Combine agents, hold small Dominion border worlds for ransom, and make away like billionaires. The real Combine would take the blame and get wiped out by Dominion forces, allowing Mox and Gurney to get a foothold in the mining industry, to boot.
And what of Mox's banishment?
Gurney simply got too greedy. Mox was never told the full extent of Gurney's plans, especially the part about disguising themselves as the Combine. He was just a loose end to get rid of, and they couldn't just whack him and his loyal followers without arousing too much suspicion from his new Protoss buddies.
Gurney did not strike me as being the insidious and calculating leader you make him out to be.
I hate to be trite, but it's always the quiet ones you have to watch out for. So, what do you plan to do?
What can I do? My own people are mired in deceit and treachery.
Look, if you were bent on stopping a whole division of the Terran bureaucracy from annihilating the Terran throne world before, I don't see any reason why you can't stop a couple of charlatans from ruining the lives of 500 million people on half a dozen defenseless worlds now. It's all in the day's work. Right?
No.
I am not so certain anymore, Terran. My homeworld is in ashes, infested by Zerg. 2 of my closest companions are dead, and others that I have respected and believed in with every ounce of my being, may be frauds and traitors.
Not to be Mr. Insensitive or anything, but I'm picking up a lot of Protoss movement all of a sudden, heading for your position.
And what of it? There is much to be done here. It is not unusual that there would be heightened activity among my people.
Yeah, well, these Protoss are coming from the underground tunnels surrounding your city. I kinda thought you guys were surface dwellers.
Forgive me for interrupting, Judicator, but did I hear that correctly?
Moloch, I have just received word. Several Corsairs in your personal squadron have been shot down by Dracoons and Templar emerging from the caverns.
They are coming.
They.
Forgive me, Terran, if I do not jump at the chance to right every wrong your cohorts have perpetrated. I simply do not have the energy. Leave, or you may inadvertently stumble into the thick of a war you are unprepared to face.
Alright, fine. I can see that nothing I've said has meant anything to you.
Oh
Still
man.
expect those credits to be delivered.
Go. Now.
Judicator, our attackers are nearly upon us.
Let them come.
No.
I am tired of fleeing. We will defend this city to the death. Be it Protoss, Zerg, Terran, or any other. We will not retreat. And we will not surrender.
I can't believe that. Wait, I'm being interviewed. They're spawning out of fucking nothing. Hello.
Memory of August.
You guys fucking awake in there?
Order, and I will act.
Why are my hotkeys fucked? Doesn't appear that Disruption Web affects melee units for some reason. Oh, it affects scarabs. That's new. What the fuck?
It appears that we have no Templar or Arbiters with which to combat the enemy. According to the local reports, Alderus has called a legion away from here for some sort of meeting.
Leaving us, as usual, to fend for ourselves. Never mind that now. Are your Dark Templar forces ready to stand with us?
We are at your disposal.
Then they will do just as well.
Do not underestimate us, Judicator. We harbor powers even you do not suspect.
They may prove useful, Judicator, for it appears we also have Zerg company.
Yeah, they may prove useful, alright. Oh shit, I lost my detector. Hope there's no lurkers over here. Wow, what a mess this area is. I guess I'll try to focus down the Guardian. Looks like we got that taken care of. I don't know, man. There's, I guess the idea of controlling the base more actively during the battles, it makes sense from a perspective of trying to add more interactivity. But how about you, like this whole thing needs to be condensed or needs to be like separated from the mission into its own little bit where it's a movie. You know, it's a fucking movie map, as opposed to like instead of not making it a cutscene. I don't know why Red has a bunch of overlords over here, but whatever. Instead of making it like not a cutscene, let's make some more observers. Grab some of these units and bring them over here. Really, what should have happened is that there should have been way more importance placed on actually making this an interactive experience. At this point, nothing has happened.
Not enough minerals.
You know, I've sort of gotten upgrades, but I'm not even really paying attention to anything. Like, even though I was sitting here this entire time, like, playing the game, and constantly distracted by the presence of the dialogue, I was still completely fine at the end of the day. Had no problems, like, A-moving entire bases, and then units were just getting spawned in from nothing. Like, there's not even a check to, like, say, hey, maybe we shouldn't, no, they're fine. Maybe we shouldn't spawn units in on top of invisible gateways that don't exist. Maybe you shouldn't spawn units in at all, first of all. But, definitely stray away from doing it if there's nothing there at all to, accept the spawn, to make it look like it's actually intentional. Ay. Like, I haven't really had to build anything. I guess I built some air units, but overall I have not struggled. I didn't use my heroes besides to defend. You know, there's just no reason, realistically, to worry about any of this. So the difficulty itself seems completely non-existent. Red keeps massing overlords over here. Who knows why? Oh, and then you actually delete the AI and make it so that they don't exist. That's pretty impressive. Well, Red's the only base that exists now, and they don't pose that much of a threat, so I don't know, man. I guess we'll just A-move with everything. Yeah, Red has, like, nothing, so. For some reason, I was auto-acquiring something. I don't know what it was. Yeah, look, there's nothing here. They just had that. Well, I don't know if maybe I'm... Oh, no, that was the whole thing.
Adjudicator, the enemy lines have been broken. We are safe. For now.
We sure are. So that was a 20-minute mission. A good chunk of it was the briefing, the opener. I get the idea to make the cutscene interactive in a way where you are playing the game while the cutscene is happening. And I didn't speak over the cutscene because that would have been really goofy. But it doesn't... Like, you're not supposed to be fed a bunch of dialogue that's really important to the story. Think about what this represents in terms of the story. Now, understand that you are supplanting the story. Like, you are basically running this important story element alongside gameplay that should be its own storytelling device, while also being really challenging. Or at least challenging enough that I shouldn't be able to focus on both the gameplay and the story. And honestly, even if it wasn't challenging, you still shouldn't make people try and split their focus. So, overall, it was not really an improvement. Like, the improvement is that it didn't last as long. They said that the cutscene in the original version was longer. It didn't feel longer. Rather, it didn't feel shorter. This did not feel shorter in terms of the amount of time that stuff took over. Like, I don't know if maybe I took control of it and it just reverted back to the original, but it didn't feel like any dialogue was omitted. Maybe it's just because there's sheer amount of dialogue that is there. I don't know. When there's not as much gameplay stuff going on, which borders on poor pacing to begin with, but can be done well, then you can have a lot of dialogue to carry the player's attention and to further the story in a way that the gameplay isn't doing at the moment. Because gameplay is your storytelling device for games. So if your gameplay isn't telling as much of a story as it normally does, or isn't telling a story in the way that you want it to, then you can have dialogue that fills that gap and pushes the story along and reveals things to the characters. But there's just so much wrong with this equation. I don't know, man. The way that they executed this is like to have gameplay that should be fleshed out enough to fully immerse you and engross you as a player, and running that along a poor execution of that idea alongside really, really overwritten dialogue that takes up way too much time. Like, I would say the majority of the map was spent with dialogue lines, transmissions coming through. Like, we had completely wiped out the Protoss by the time that they spawned in the units, which is another, like, sort of casualty of allowing the player to assume control. So, those are my 2 cents.